Hey guys, welcome back. In my two previous videos, our process to issue a shortcut has always been the same. Get an access token, find the vehicle in question, wake up the car, and then issue the command. Each one of these is a separate API call going out to the network, which in turn can slow down the overall shortcuts we are performing. We want our shortcuts to be quick. Typically with the access token, once we get it, we want to store it somewhere, like a database. With shortcuts, we don't really have access to a database. However, we can store this on your phone through iCloud storage. Shortcuts have access to the shortcuts folder in your iCloud account. So in this example, we're going to use that. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to my channel for future updates. And if you like this video in the end, make sure to hit the like button as well. To see the iCloud drive on your phone, you will need to download the Files app, which is developed by Apple. From there, we're going to go into the Shortcuts folder. We'll go ahead and create a folder in there called Tesla. Everything we want to see in regards to our shortcuts will be in this directory. Now we will create a file with your email and password on your iCloud account. We will want to create a file called Credential.json and store that and the Tesla's client ID and client secret in there. Apple doesn't make it easy to create an empty file and edit it. So instead of creating a shortcut to create this, I'm just going to provide you a link to my GitHub account where you could download this shortcut. It will be available in the video's description, and it will look like this. In here, you will enter your info. As you can see, it will save the credentials.json in your iCloud account. We will also create an empty access.json file for later. This is a one-time activity at most. After doing this, we can remove the shortcut if you want, but it might be handy in the future if you change your password. Let's first open Authenticate with Tesla. With this, we want to tackle three things. If you don't have an access token, we'll make the call to get the access token. If you have the access token is close to expiring, we'll get a new access token for the refresh token. Lastly, if you have an access token and it's valid, we'll do nothing. So let's start out by grabbing the two files, credential.json and access.json. So let's search for get file, and we'll add that to the top twice. For the first one, we'll deselect Show Document Picker. Under File Path, we'll type in Tesla/credentials.json. This has our email, password, client ID, and client secret. For the second one, we'll do the same thing. For the file path, we will enter Tesla/access.json. This will have the access and refresh token that we'll be getting and maintaining. So let's grab some set variables. Before we had for text where we manually put in the values. Now we'll move these set variables above the first file and set them. The file is just a JSON object, which means that Apple could read them as a dictionary. If you remember from my previous videos, JSON is nothing more than a key value pairing. Where it says text, let's go ahead and clear that out as well. Now let's click on input, select magic variable, and now let's click on file. Let's click on file, then again where it says as file. Since we're storing the information as JSON, we want to select dictionary. So we'll scroll up and select dictionary. Now you will see we can set the value for the key. We want to go ahead and click on get value for key and enter email. We'll do the same for the remainder of the values. Let's search and grab 4 set variables. We'll put them under the second get file. The access file will have the following: access token, refresh token, created at, and expires in. Now that we read our two files, let's work on our first condition to determine if we have the access token or not. So let's search and select if. For our input, we will want to select access token. And for our condition, we want to select does not have any value. So if our access token is not present, we want to do exactly what we did before. So let's move everything into the if clause. Now that we have our call, we want to save the results to access.json. So let's search for save file and move that under get contents of URL. We'll deselect ask where to save. Under destination path, we'll enter Tesla/access.json. We will also enable overwrite if file exists. Now that we're done with the first one, let's test this out. Let's click on the play button. If everything works out correctly, we will see the output with the refresh token, created date, token type, expires in, and access token. Now if you go to the Files app and navigate to the Shortcuts folder and the Tesla folder, you will see access.json. If you click on it, the information should match what was displayed in Shortcuts. If you go back to Shortcuts and click play again, you will see that it won't make the API call. The value that's shown here is the last variable that was set, which is expires in, which means that we did not generate a new access token. So that's great, we're halfway there. Now we will tackle the rest. You will now want to take care of the situation where the access token expires. The access token has an expiry of 45 days. We won't want to wait for the 45th day to refresh the token. Instead, we will update the token 5 days prior. To do that, we will look at the created at value that Tesla returned to us when we got the access token. So let's begin. So first, let's examine created at. Let's search for show result. We will want to clear out the if result and then select created at. So let's go ahead and run this. So we get a really long number. This is what is called an epoch time. It's prevalent in computer programming. So instead of using the datetime format, it represents the number of seconds that elapsed since January 1st, 1970 at midnight UTC. It's also regarded as the birthday of the Unix operating system. So what we will need to do is convert this to a date and make the comparison. So let's first search for date. Click on current date and select specified date. We will enter January 1st, 1970 at 12 a.m. Now that we have the epoch time, let's add the number of seconds using the created at to get the date when the token was created. Let's search for adjust date. Now let's select created at where it says 0. Let's move the show results up and clear that out and select adjusted date. Now that we have the created date, we want to figure out when it expires. As mentioned before, it will expire in 45 days. For this example, we will want to grab a new token when it's within 40 days after it's created, 5 days before it expires. So let's do another adjust date. So let's put 40 and then change the seconds to days. Now if you run this one more time, you will now see that the date is way in the future. Since we only care about the date, let's search for format date. We'll click on show more, and for time format, we'll select none. Let's clear out adjusted date from show results, and let's choose formatted date. So if we run this one more time, we'll just see the date, which is what we want. Now that we have the expiry date, we will want to compare this to our current date. So let's search for date. Let's compare the current date to our expiry date. So let's search for if. For a condition, we will want to check to see if the current date is after our formatted date. If this is true, that means that our access token is close to or already expired. In the top text box, we'll put token is expired, and in the bottom text box, we'll put token is not expired. So if we run this now, we should see a message that says the token is not expired, which is correct. Perfect. So now we can replace that text box with a comment that basically says the same thing. This basically is our condition where we will do nothing. Now let's tackle what happens when the token is expired. For the most part, it's identical to getting the access token. So let's move the URL outside of the if statement, since we're going to use the same URL. What we're telling Tesla is that we have a valid access token, but it's either expiring or it's already expired, and we want to get a new access token using the refresh token they provide us. So let's make an API call. We'll search for get contents of URL. Let's go ahead and clear out the date, and we're going to search for the URL that we had above. Let's click on show more and change that method to post. Similar to before, we'll be adding grant type, client ID, and client secret. But instead of email and password, we'll be sending the refresh token. For grant type, we'll enter refresh token. For client ID and client secret, we'll select the variables client ID and client secret. And for refresh token, we're going to select the variable for refresh token. So now let's run and test this out. We just have one slight problem. The token expires within 40 days, and we don't want to wait until then, obviously, to test it out. So let's change the above where it says add 40 days to subtract 40 days. This will put our expiry date way in the past. So if we rerun this, we'll see that it generated a new access token. How could we tell? If we compare the access token here to what we have in access.json, we'll see that it's different. Therefore, it generated a brand new one. So there's just one more step we need to do. We need to overwrite the access file. So let's grab the save file and disable ask where to save. For a destination path, we'll put tesla/access.json, and we will overwrite the file. Before we test this out, we need to clear out our access token that we have in our access.json. When we generated a new access token from the refresh token, it actually invalidated the old token. So let's run our helper shortcut that we did in the beginning. So now let's go back and run this. Now no matter how many times we run this, we'll get a new token. And it's using the refresh token the second time around to generate the new token. Now only one more thing to do. We need to go and change the subtract back to add. And if we run it now, nothing will happen. Now that we have the token, we can change our original shortcut. So let's go into that shortcut. Let's search for get file and move it to the top. For the file path, we'll enter tesla/access.json. Let's go ahead and remove the run shortcut. And then we'll go ahead and clear out the shortcut result from set variable. For the input, we will select the magic variable and choose file. And like before, this is a dictionary, so we will select the access token for the key. Now one last step. We have to automate this. So let's go to automation and choose personal automation. Ideally, we want this to run every day. And you would think time of day would be that solution. However, if you go to Apple support, as of iOS 13, time of day does not run automatically. I'm hoping by iOS 14 that might change. What does this mean? Well, it means that every time this runs, you will get a notification if you want to run the shortcut. This isn't quite ideal. We want this to run automatically. Looking at the list, there's one that might work, which is Open App. Regardless of the shortcuts we make, we'll still open the Tesla app. So let's scroll down to Open App. Now we can select the apps we want to open. For myself, I'm going to choose Tesla, Roadie for Tesla, and TestLab. Then I'm going to click Next, and we could run our shortcut from here, Authenticate for Tesla. Now we could go ahead and click Next. Before we click Done, we want to disable Ask Before Running. Disabling this will let you run the shortcut automatically without prompting the user whether or not we want to run this. To test this out, we just need to open one of the three apps. So let's switch over to TestLab, since I know it won't wake up my car while my car is asleep. And now you can see the notification that it ran. So that's it. We now eliminated one API call. We also automated that process so that we don't have to worry about it expiring on us. One thing to note, if you change your password, you will need to get a new access token. Your current one will be invalidated. So you'll need to run that helper again to clear out access.json file. Well, that's it. I hope you find this useful. In the next couple of episodes, we'll be continuing with this approach and further simplifying our work. Till next time.